So here I am in Huntingdon, and you'll have to excuse the dark glasses. It's a little sunny, which is of course great in some respects. Stay with me on this video. For the one thing, I want to just remind you that on Sunday we'll be out again, Mandy and I, and hopefully some friends, singing in the centre of Huntingdon. That's 12 noon. We'll be broadcasting live on Facebook. So look forward to sharing that with you then. I also want to share a number of thoughts with you because, as I am, you are probably concerned about so many of the things that are happening here in our world today. And you know, there's talk about conspiracy theories. People are wondering what's going on with all these lockdowns. I want to try and cover some of the stuff that's happening, not just here where I am, which is in England, in Great Britain, but in different parts of the world. I'm very conscious of the fact that neither here in Britain, where our main news organ is the BBC, nor in America, where a number of very serious things are happening, and perhaps not in Australia, are people actually receiving the truth. They're receiving news, but as is often the case, the information is heavily filtered. Just to give you some examples. Now, we all know about this dreadful debacle from Afghanistan a few weeks ago. Complete shambles, with the greatest power on earth failing to look after its own people. We then find that in America, along their southern border, something in the region of 1.7 million illegal immigrants have entered. Now, there's an interesting contradiction taking place here in America under the Biden regime, because on the one hand, what is happening is that he has mandated, illegally I understand, the requirement for everybody to be vaccinated, but on the other is permitting all of these illegal immigrants to enter into America unvaccinated. And in fact, I understand that the rates of COVID are increasing exponentially. And there's a lot more that's going on in that nation as well. And then we have Australia, where in Victoria, that state is locked down. Now, this is what the new freedom looks like. This is what this kind of totalitarian activity could mean in Britain and in America and in other places if the people do not rise up. So what's happening there? There you are locked down, and you are restricted as to how much you can go out. You are told how much you can drink. Now, that's a tough one, isn't it? 6 cans of beer. I don't know if that's a day or a week, but irrespective of what your views may be on the consumption of alcohol and whether too much of it is being consumed, the reality is it the right of any government or government official, in this case Premier Andrews, to tell people what to do? And you may have seen the scenes of extreme violence by the police against ordinary citizens who are obviously very concerned about this and who are wanting to raise their voices. And we've seen similar situations, scenes here in this country. Now, there have been examples of antisocial behavior by an organization protesting for climate, but to a large degree it looks to me like those people are dealt with kid gloves, although perhaps that's changed more recently as they've been disrupting traffic on the M25. But when I've seen scenes of people, ordinary peaceful protesters, wanting to demonstrate, to protest, to raise their voices about being locked down, about a medical apartheid situation where some of you, if you get this injection, you can then access services. If you don't, you're going to be put on the reservation. That's a disproportionate way of dealing with people. So I'm very concerned about what I'm seeing in England, in America, in Australia. Essentially the West, the West, which is built on Judeo-Christian values, is being dismembered fast. And the attack is on freedom of speech, it's on the liberty to worship. That's really important because houses of worship have been closed down. Now that should never have happened, because while that's been going on, the very people who have said you've got to socially distance, they are the people who've had their parties, they've gone out to dinner, they've had their major conferences, and they're places that are so necessary in this period of lockdown, places where people can be counseled, where they can worship together, where they can have community activities have been shut down. Folks, something very serious is happening, and I often refer to the Second World War, 1939 to 1945, because my father fought for the Allies, for peace, against totalitarianism. He was in Palestine during that time. And what I'm seeing today is what Hitler and the Nazis could not achieve, and actually what communism couldn't achieve through a direct onslaught, has been in this country and in the West, because the traditions of the West, built upon Judeo-Christian values, the essentially conservative, that's a small c, it's not a political partisan statement, but the conservative approach to life, the traditional values have been fragmented. This is not a good way to continue. This is a dangerous way. It leads to anarchy and it leads to annihilation. So, is there an answer? Yes, there are answers in different ways. I'm a man of faith, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus. However, regardless of whether your background and your belief system is in faith, and specifically here the Christian faith, here and now, I think the important thing is that everybody who is vaguely intelligent and who can rely on their skills of observation should be saying something is wrong here and we need to wake up. Our freedom has been stolen. In March 2020 in Britain, when the Prime Minister Boris Johnson got up in his soapbox and started talking about protecting the NHS, that was a lie. It was garbage. It is not the responsibility of citizens to protect any agency of state, and specifically in this connection, to manage hospital admissions, as Sir Desmond Swayne said so eloquently in the House of Commons. It is the responsibility of government to protect citizens. Why is it that medicines that have been very well used, especially now in India, in vast numbers, which can treat COVID right at the beginning and even when it's in its most intense stage, why is that not being provided by our government and by the National Health Service here in Britain? Why is it outlawed? Why do doctors not know about it? And why are deaths, irrespective of what the cause is, why are they being attributed to COVID? There are very, very serious issues here. As you may know, there are very serious conflicts of interest. Many, if not all, on the SAGE committee, the committee advising government, so-called scientists, they're not practicing doctors, they don't see patients, have a vested interest because they are being funded by big pharmaceutical companies and by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, these are organizations for whom it is in their best interest to keep people locked down in a place of fear. And that's really the great pandemic here, fear. In fact, now doctors are telling us that whereas the clearest indicator of death when people were being admitted to hospital was obesity, now not only obesity, it's actually the fear and anxiety about what might happen. So we need to wake up to what is going on in our nation. We need to ask our members of parliament very serious questions. I'm here in Huntingdon. I've yet to see our own MP, Jonathan Ginogly, do anything of any significance to stand up for the constituents here. Indeed, I believe that our system of parliamentary democracy is very badly broken. We've got three main parties. It's very difficult for people who are outside of the system to get in. Things have got to change. And it only happens when we, the people, stand up. So I think that's about all I'm going to say here. I'm going to keep posting these messages up. I'd like to invite you to comment, to share these widely. We need to have a people's peaceful revolution, one that works within the systems that we have, that calls to account those people who are employed to serve us. Can we remind them of that? Parliamentarians, the police, people in the public sector organizations, they're there to serve us. It's not the other way around. We're not there to keep them in jobs. So join me in this revolution, a crusade for truth actually, and for righteousness, and for restoration of the power of ordinary people once more. And get with me on the road to renewal. Can we do it? Yes, we can.